Election meet litmus test. As we draw closer and closer to November, top Republicans aren't just falling in line, they're also falling over themselves to appease the party's presumptive nominee. A new trend is taking place to not only cast doubt about the last election, but to also raise questions about the next one in 2024. We are watching as top Republicans are declining to answer a straightforward question, or at least twisting themselves into pretzels when they are asked about committing to accepting the election results.
No matter what happens, no, if it's an unfair election, I think it's going to be contested by either side.
Yeah, I'll accept it, but I think, if there's no massive cheating.
The 47th president of the United States will be President Donald Trump.
Yes or no, will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter who wins?
That is my statement.
And what a statement that truly is. Then, in addition to what you just saw there, here on The Source last night, you saw another prominent senator joining in that effort. Texas Senator Ted Cruz, as we remember, was the first senator to object to certifying the results in 2020 for Arizona. He was also in the building on January 6th when rioters stormed inside and lawmakers were forced into hiding. Here's part of our exchange when we asked him that question last night. Will you accept the results regardless of who wins the election?
So, Caitlin, I got to say, I think that's actually a ridiculous question.
It's a yes or no question, though.
No, it's not. So you're asking, will you promise no matter what to agree an election is illegitimate regardless of what happens? And that would be an absurd thing to claim. The media engages in this weird game post-Donald Trump that you insist no voter fraud has ever existed. Why does every state have laws in place to challenge voter fraud if it occurs?
The media
Why do you have election challenges?
This isn't a game. There was no widespread voter fraud.
You only ask Republicans that. Because
it was Republicans who tried to block the transition of power. You have to acknowledge that. So we've never seen it on a scale of what happened in 2020, and we've never seen the president refuse. He wouldn't even let Joe Biden get classified briefings at the beginning. I recall that. So my question for you again, free and fair election, will you accept the results regardless of who wins?
Look, if the Democrats win, I will accept the result, but I'm not going to ignore fraud regardless of what happens.
Was there fraud in 2020?
Of course there was fraud in 2020.
No, there wasn't, and you still objected. As has been made clear, there was no material fraud that would have altered the outcome of the 2020 election. Trump's own Department of Homeland Security said that the 2020 vote was one of the most secure in history. Dozens of lawsuits contesting the election were dismissed and dropped because of a lack of evidence or a lack of standing by courts across the country. Trump's own Attorney General, Bill Barr, someone who has said that despite everything that happened, he is still voting for Donald Trump this November, described it as playing a game of whack-a-mole to run down the avalanche of false claims of fraud that were coming into the Justice Department. Senator Ted Cruz, of course, is aware of all of that, and he's also deeply familiar with Trump's false claims about losing elections. In 2016, 8 years ago, Trump actually accused Cruz of stealing the Iowa caucuses that he won.
Donald finds it very hard to lose. Donald Trump guaranteed a victory in Iowa, and then he lost. And he doesn't like that. What Donald does when he loses is he blames everybody else. It's never Donald's fault. It's always somebody else's fault.
It's pretty remarkable to see that, of course, Cruz not embracing Trump's claims of fraud then. My lead political sources tonight are both CNN political commentators, former Obama administration official Van Jones, and also the former Republican Lieutenant Governor of Georgia, Jeff Duncan, who I should note was among those pressured by Trump and his allies to change the 2020 results. And Jeff, just given that, have you ever, what I'm kind of struck by is that it is such a simple and straightforward question that so many Republicans have a difficulty answering these days.
It was so painful to sit here and listen to all those audio clips of just everybody tying themselves in pretzels. I mean, I flipped the script back on Ted Cruz and say, just spend that hot air that you just spent trying to twist around and actually lay out some proof. I mean, we're almost 4 years into this, and there's not 1 ounce or shred of proof that anything happened other than a fair and legal election in Georgia and everywhere else in the country. Was there anomalies? Certainly, but there was never been an election that's been more scrutinized than the Georgia election. And look, this is painful to watch. It takes you back to your high school days where somebody wants to be in the cool kids club so bad they will do and say anything that eventually they look back and say that was a huge mistake. It's not an if, it's when Republicans will recognize Donald Trump as the biggest stain on our party's history.
Van, do you think that'll happen, that it is not an if but a when of Republicans